I know the official name of this, I call it Chromebooks and Literacy, but it's only 15 minutes and I can totally overwhelm you with all different tools that you can use and not explain it all. But when I went to the MassQ conference, the woman who gave the keynote speech was this, her name is Catlin Tucker. And she had a lot of really good things to say. And one of the things the first thing she suggested and that she talked about is that too many times when technology, or when schools go into new technology, the teachers start to think about immediately how are they going to replace everything they're doing, or how will technology replace what I already do. And she said the better lens to look at it through is how can I use technology to improve what I'm already doing. And instead of trying to focus on 30 different apps or 30 different things to learn, try focusing on one and becoming an expert in one. And so that's where I started. And the thing I thought about was discussions, because you can have whole class discussions, and if you do that with 25 kids in your room, it's the same 2 or 3 kids you're calling on all of the time. Or if you break up into small group discussions, you know that they'll talk about it when you're standing over them, and then as soon as you walk away, they let the other members of the group know that you're not listening and they can talk about whatever they want. So I figured, bless you. One of the ways you could do that, how could I use technology, is how could we record our discussions? And then I wanted to make it meaningful instead of just recording our discussions. How could I ensure that they're on topic, talking about the things we need to do? So what I started with was by making some Google slide presentations, which are just simply the Google version of PowerPoints. And so I have one for different, we're reading The Outsiders right now. This is for chapters 1 and 2 of The Outsiders. This is through chapters 3 and 5. So I'll load up this one. This is what we did today. So each slide is just simply a discussion. And so they sit around in a small group and they have to, this is a quote from chapter 3, page 40 to 41 in the book. They read the quote, and then underneath there are different questions I want them to think about, whether they relate to the themes or whatever they're related to when we're studying. These are already questions and ideas I had my students talking about, and so I wanted to find a way, how do I use technology to kind of improve this or ensure understanding or to work with them. So after I made the Google slide, and it contains about 6, there's this app called Movenote, and Movenote is really a kind of like a flipped teaching application, but you can modify it for your purposes. So it's on my drive, and I just do a new Movenote, which won't work on this because it's a desktop. But on your Chromebook, it films you, and you can go through the slideshow. So what I did is I distributed that slideshow to all of my students. They all have Movenote on their Chromebooks, so then they had to go through and they had to film themselves having the discussion. And they click through the slides as they go through it. And my idea was, even if I'm not standing over them, the idea that they're being watched, the idea that this is on tape and that they have to stay focused is there. And I also gave them how long I wanted them to spend on it. And I said each of these should take no less than 2 minutes. You can spend as much time on it as you want, but no less than 2 minutes. And as they film, it records, it gives them their running time, so they know exactly how long they've spent talking about it. So for our chapter 1 and 2 discussion, this is kids who are in a group of 4, and I can kind of give you exactly, I'll give you the beginning.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and we're here to discuss the outsiders. Is Pony Boy a true racer? What makes someone a racer? He's like sort of a racer.
And while this is going on, I can be working with other groups. I can be out in the hall. I have my kids all over the place. And these are, I mean, this is not a level 1 class. These are students who, and these are all good kids, but they might be the type of kids who, if you're not standing over there, they're just going to talk quickly about the first thing, look like they're engaged, and then when you're away from it, they'll go on. And you can see this group, their discussion of these went 13 minutes and 25 seconds. Just the first time through. We did these again today with chapters 3 through 5. It was still only 6 discussion questions, and we averaged about 20 minutes per group discussion for the students, staying on topic and working through them. They feel like they know they're being watched, they have this, and then to tie it in for them, to give them, rather than just it being like Big Brother watching you, and you have to stay on task, at the end of the day, they can choose one of the discussion slides that they then had to go home and write about. and they had to incorporate ideas they heard from their group members in that discussion, in their paragraph. So they all have a link to this, and they went home and they all rewatched just one part of the discussion, so that they had to pull in ideas that their group members talked about. And this really just started from my idea of thinking about what's something I do in my classroom, and what's a way I could use technology to improve that, rather than saying, I do discussions in my classroom, now I've got to replace discussions because I've got these Chromebooks and we can't use these anymore. It really came from that line of thinking. So I know I said Chromebooks and literacy, but I think that's more important, having gone through all of these ed camps and going through where you're hearing all of these things. I think we work with a lot of creative and smart people in this building, and I think everybody in here, if you just kind of realign your thinking, instead of, I need to use that app in my classroom, or that doesn't seem like it would work for social studies, this feels like a waste of time. I think what you can do is just start thinking about things you do in your classroom and how do you use technology. So this is just one way. In the app, it's called Movenote. There's lots of different ones. There's also Screencastify the kids you could use. The kids don't want to be on camera. Screencastify records them, and it just records what's on their screen. So they could go through the Google slide on their screen without being on camera at first. So there's lots of different flipped teaching resources out there. The fun thing about this, though, is when you tell them to get ready and you get to watch 2 minutes of kids doing their hair and looking at each other to make sure they look okay. And the boys are way worse than the girls, at least in 7th grade this year. It took them much longer to get ready than the girls. So that's where I am, and that's just kind of one thing I came from it. In terms of other things, I don't have my Chromebook set up here, but if you're looking for another one, and we haven't done this in our team yet, but if you do team newsletters, a pretty good one here is Lucid Press, which is free, and I'm not exactly sure how long this free trial works for, but Lucid Press is different templates of brochures, of newsletters, of whatever it is, and whatever you might want to be doing in your classroom. So if you do flyers or whatever it is, this is just templates that you can go in and are ready-made. And again, it's a way that I think if you're doing some of these things in your classroom already, the technology that doesn't replace what you're doing, but just might even make your life a little bit easier or even improve the way you're going about it. So that's kind of my spiel, and that's kind of how I changed. I know I said Chromebooks and literacy, but I do feel like when you go to so many of these in a row, it just becomes information on information on information, and how you're processing that and how you can even kind of take that away and go and do that in your own classroom is tricky and it's daunting. And I think what this woman, Caitlin Tucker, said that really spoke to me and it's like really kind of realigned my thinking and made things a lot easier for me is realizing I don't have to completely replace what I'm doing in my classroom, but I can use the Chromebooks and I can do a little bit of exploration, I can do a little bit of research and find things out there that can make what I'm doing a little bit better. Paula.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So you said that the kids on their Google Chromebooks they had the app Movenote.
They did in
kind
7th grade.
of guide them through it, getting it?
He's not going to be happy, but he's filming it right now, so he's going to have to hear it anyway. Joe, if you have not used him as a resource yet, is incredibly helpful. I would not have been able to do Movenote or done that whole thing without Joe basically guiding me through the process and helping the kids. So if you find something that you want to work, or if you want to use Movenote, I heavily suggest, even before you do it in your classroom, getting in touch with Joe and saying, Joe, this is what I'm thinking about doing, so that you avoid signing out for the DLL and bringing your whole class into the DLL, getting them all excited to do something, and then realizing that that technology doesn't work on their Chromebooks, and you have you standing in front of 25 kids with absolutely no lesson plan and 8 million questions about the Chromebooks.
Okay.
In your defense, the internet was in and out that day.
It was also the day we all did Kahoot that morning for the PBIS, so there was a lot of things working against me.
So what did you have to do to get that?
So in terms of, Movenote was not something, and the kids have a lot more restrictions on their Chromebooks than we do, so
Okay.
I thought if we could get the app, the kids could get the app, and that's not necessarily the case. So just because you can get something and add something to your Google Drive doesn't mean it's the same easy process for the kids to get it to add to their Google Drive.
But once it's on there, we can all use it, like I'm on your team, so
Yes,
they all have.
they all have.
Technically, right now, the entire 8th grade has Movenote.
All right, 7th and 8th grade?
Just
Oh,
8th
well,
grade.
half of 7th and all of 8th.
I'm in 7th grade, Joe.
Then all of 7th
Oh,
grade has
7th
Movenote.
grade. Yes.
But that'll be changing. We're working on the list. I may have sent it to you today. I don't think I did, but
Okay.
we'll get that taken care of. So it'll be available to everybody soon enough.
So you're gonna put it for 6th grade too?
It'll be once it's approved. It's approved.
Oh, okay.
So
Could you show us, like, when you go on there, what a new Movenote would look like to set up? Or
It might be tricky on your. I don't know if I can do it because it's a.
oh, it's for your Chromebook.
It's.
I'm gonna say
desktop.
for your next session, do you have your Chromebook with you?
I'm
I'm just
didn't
gonna
think
stop
that-
this recording.